what does it really mean for an AI to think? Today, we're diving deep into identity is the new perimeter. Modern applications span cloud, devices, and APIs. The network perimeter no longer exists. Identity is the sole consistent boundary. Every request browser, mobile app, service must authenticate and authorize correctly. .NET has historically lacked a unified kernel for these concerns, leading to fragmented implementations. Interview.net introduces a cohesive identity framework that treats auth as core infrastructure, not an integration afterthought. It establishes identity as the foundational layer for all .NET applications. But here's where it gets interesting: fragmented identity surface. The .NET ecosystem accumulated identity solutions incrementally: Windows Authentication, ASP.NET Membership, Simple Membership, Identity 1.020, OWIN cookie middleware, JWT bearer tokens, and third-party libraries like Identity Server. Each introduced its own configuration pattern, claim mapping, and middleware insertion. Developers wrestle with inconsistent challenge schemes, conflicting use authentication order, and missing authorization policies across endpoints. This patchwork increases attack surface, duplicates effort, and fragments team knowledge. A unified approach is missing. Security best practices vary across stacks, complicating compliance. So, what's the real problem? Let's talk about the abstraction gap. No single abstraction unifies authentication handler, registration, policy evaluation, and user store access. Developers manually invoke UseAuthentication, UseAuthorization, configure multiple schemes, and implement custom ILIrization policy provider. Claims transformation is ad hoc middleware. The absence of a first-class identity kernel forces MVC, APIs, Razor Pages, Blazor, and gRPC projects to rebuild similar plumbing with inconsistent behavior. This fragmentation causes misconfiguration vulnerabilities, unauthenticated endpoints, incorrect claim mapping, eroding trust. Diagnostics and auditing are impeded. This raises a critical question: unified identity pipeline. Interview.net Identity Core introduces a declarative, protocol-agnostic identity pipeline. It orchestrates authentication handlers, OTA by 2, OIDC, JWT, custom, claims transformation, policy evaluation, and user store access into a single composable graph. Developers describe identity intent schemes, policies, transformations, not procedural plumbing. One pipeline serves browser, mobile API, and service-to-service calls with consistent security semantics. Duplicate middleware is eliminated. Proper ordering enforced. Legacy projects adopt incrementally through bridge adapters. Built-in telemetry provides observability. This unifies the identity stack. Now, let's zoom in on layered identity architecture. Architecture transports security, TLS, MTLS, authentication handler layer, authentication handler, authenticate async, challenge async, forbid async, claims principal transformation, claims transformation, policy evaluator, authorization policy provider, ILIrization service, authorization decision resource access. A user store abstraction, iUserStore.user, isolates persistence. Each layer is independently configurable, testable, and swappable. Policy evaluation runs asynchronously with full AHIS-KISMINS and resource context. The pipeline composes handlers via DI. Order is explicit in configuration. Custom policy providers integrate seamlessly. Here's something most people overlook: the identity kernel primitives. 5 core interfaces: authentication handler, protocol binding, authenticate async, challenge async, forbid async, claims transformation, claims augmentation after authentication, ILIrization policy provider, dynamic policy retrieval by name, IL authorization service, authorization evaluation, authorize async, irstore.identity persistence, CRUD claims roles. Developers implement or replace any component without affecting the rest. The framework wires them via DI, ensuring loose coupling. Custom policy requirements plug into IOLization handler. The design aligns with solid principles. Each interface has a single responsibility, enabling focused unit testing. Think about this for a second. Authentication challenge flow. An unauthenticated request arrives. The authentication middleware invokes the default handler's authenticate async. If no principal, it triggers challenge async. The handler negotiates the protocol, redirect to login for cookies, 401 with wAvatair for JWT, or OIDC code flow redirect. The pipeline suspends upon success. A claims principal is populated with identity claims and attached to Hotapeskint user. Failure returns 403 before authorization. All challenges are logged for observability. Multi-scheme selection is policy-driven. The challenge result includes authentication properties for further processing. And this is where things get complex. Authorization decision pipeline. With a principal present, the authorization middleware gathers applicable policies from endpoint metadata, attributes, or conventions. Each policy contains requirements. UseAuthentication queryant. Registered handlers, UseAuthentication handler, evaluate the principal, resource, and context. Handlers return success, failure, or abstain. The policy evaluator aggregates results. An explicit failure denies immediately. Success allows the request to proceed. All decisions are emitted as telemetry. Fine-grained control is achieved through resource-based policies. But here's where it gets interesting: developer velocity and security posture. Adopting interview.net reduces auth-related boilerplate by 60%. Common misconfigurations, missing use continuation, mismatched scheme names, duplicated policies are prevented by compile time validators and convention. Built-in telemetry signals anomalies like excessive challenges, policy failures, or unusual claims. Security reviews accelerate because identity architecture is standardized. Average time to implement OAuth 2 OIDC flows drops from days to hours. Identity becomes a platform feature, not a per-project concern, enabling teams to focus on business logic. Application Insights integration provides real-time dashboards. So what's the real problem? Let's talk about bridging legacy identity. Existing ASP.NET identity stores integrate through adapter implementations of UXStore and Authentication handler. Prescriptive migration path: first replace authorization policies with the unified evaluator, then swap authentication handlers, then migrate user stores. No forced rewrite. The pipeline detects legacy components and applies compatibility behaviors, ensuring zero downtime transition. Integration tests verify backward compatibility. Teams modernize incrementally while maintaining existing user data and login flows. Adapters for Entity Framework and Dapper are provided. This raises a critical question: passwordless and continuous auth. Native support for WebAuthn and passkeys removes password dependencies. Adaptive MFA policies evaluate device posture, geolocation, and behavioral signals before granting step-up challenges. Continuous authorization monitors session risk. Policies reevaluate on sensitive operations like fund transfers or data export. The static session is replaced by a risk-aware identity fabric. Interview.net ships with built-in risk providers and a pluggable risk engine ready for AI-driven anomaly detection integration. FIDO2 server capabilities are built in. Now, let's zoom in on universal integration. Identity Core integrates seamlessly with ASP.NET Core, Blazor, MAUI, and minimal APIs. First-class providers for Microsoft Entra ID, Auth0, Duende Identity Server, and custom stores. One identity model spans mobile, web, and service. Extend via NuGet packages. Comprehensive documentation and security best practice guidance are included. Identity Core works with any .NET host, including containers and serverless. Community samples and quick start templates accelerate adoption. Explore the framework to begin.